The old house loomed on the hilltop, a silhouette against the raging storm. Its dark, foreboding presence seemed to challenge the very elements, standing tall and unyielding. Rain lashed down, driven by a furious wind that howled like a banshee. The storm was relentless, a symphony of chaos that battered everything in its path. Lightning split the sky, momentarily illuminating the house with an eerie glow. Each flash revealed more of the house's decaying facade, casting long, sinister shadows. It was a night to stay indoors, huddled by the fire. The warmth and safety of a cozy room seemed like a distant dream amidst the storm's fury. But not for Jessica, Mike and Lucy. They were drawn to the house, their curiosity and sense of adventure overpowering their common sense. They were drawn to the house like moths to a flame, unable to resist its mysterious allure despite the danger it promised.
Tonight I will prove my bravery. Mike's voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed a hint of uncertainty.
Jessica, ever the daredevil, shivered with anticipation, not from the cold. Her heart raced with the thrill of the unknown. Mike, the skeptic of the group, scoffed at the idea of a haunted house. He had always been the rational one, dismissing ghost stories as mere fabrications. It was all a load of nonsense to him, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about this place. Yet a flicker of unease danced in his eyes. The storm seemed to amplify his doubts, making the house appear even more menacing. Lucy, ever cautious, trembled beside them, her fear palpable. She had a sixth sense about these things, and every fibre of her being screamed to turn back.
"We should turn back, please." Her voice was barely audible over the storm, but the desperation in her tone was unmistakable.
She pleaded with them to turn back, but her pleas fell on deaf ears. The allure of the unknown was too strong for her friends to resist. The wind whipped around them, tearing at their clothes as they finally reached the front steps. Each step felt like a battle against the elements. The house seemed to lean down at them, its vacant windows like the eyes of a predator. It was as if the house itself was alive, watching their every move. The air grew heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth and decay. The interior of the house was even more foreboding, with every creak and groan adding to the sense of dread. A shiver ran down Lucy's spine, and she knew with a certainty that chilled her to the bone that they were not alone. The house held secrets, and tonight they would uncover them, for better or worse.
See, nothing to be scared of. It's just an old house, nothing more,
Mike declared, his voice a little too loud, betraying his bravado. He pushed open the creaking gate, its rusty hinges groaning like a tortured soul. The sound echoed in the still night, sending shivers down their spines. Jessica, never one to back down from a challenge, strode through the gate, her eyes gleaming with excitement. She loved the thrill of the unknown, the adrenaline rush that came with facing her fears head on. Lucy hesitated, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the weight of the darkness pressing in on her, every shadow seeming to move with a life of its own.
Come on, Slowpoke, we don't have all night.
Jessica called back, her voice laced with amusement. Lucy took a deep breath and followed, clutching her flashlight like a lifeline. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing cobwebs and dust-covered furniture. The wind seemed to whisper around them, carrying with it the faintest hint of a voice. Lucy stopped, straining to hear, but the sound was gone. She shook her head, trying to dismiss the eerie feeling creeping up her spine.
What is it, Lucy? Did you hear something?
Nothing. I thought I heard something. Maybe it's just my imagination.
It's just the wind. Come on, let's get this over with. We need to prove we're not scared.
He pushed open the front door, which swung inward with a groan, revealing a dark and dusty hallway. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the floorboards creaked under their weight. They stepped inside, their footsteps echoing in the silence, each one a reminder of the dare they had accepted. The air inside the house was stale and heavy, thick with the smell of dust and decay. It felt as though the house itself was breathing, exhaling years of neglect and abandonment. The walls seemed to close in, suffocating them with the weight of forgotten memories. Cobwebs draped from the ceiling like ghostly shrouds, and the only light came from their flashlights, cutting through the darkness like knives. The beams of light revealed layers of dust and grime untouched for decades. Each step they took disturbed the stillness, sending particles dancing in the air. Lucy shivered, the hair on the back of her neck standing on end. She could feel the cold seeping into her bones, a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. It was as if the house itself was alive, watching them, waiting for the right moment to strike. They moved cautiously down the hallway, their footsteps echoing in the oppressive silence. Every creak and groan of the old house seemed amplified, each sound a reminder of the countless stories the walls could tell if they could speak. The floorboards creaked beneath their feet, protesting at being disturbed after so many years of silence. It was as if the house was warning them, urging them to turn back before it was too late. But curiosity and a sense of adventure pushed them forward. To their right, a grand staircase swept upwards into the darkness, its once polished banister now covered in a thick layer of dust. The staircase seemed to beckon them, promising secrets and mysteries hidden in the shadows above.
This place is amazing! The excitement in his voice was palpable, a stark contrast to the eerie atmosphere that surrounded them.
Jessica, her eyes darting around, was the first to break the silence. Her voice trembled slightly, betraying her nervousness. "Do you think it's safe?" she asked, her gaze shifting from one shadowy corner to another. Mike, still trying to maintain his skeptical facade, shrugged. "It's just an old house," he said, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. The bravado he tried to project was thin, barely masking his own unease.
It's just an old house, Jess. His words were meant to reassure, but they fell flat, echoing hollowly in the vast emptiness.
But even his voice lacked its usual conviction. The uncertainty in his tone was unmistakable, a reflection of the growing tension among them. Lucy said nothing, her eyes wide with fear as she scanned the shadows, convinced that something was watching them. Her heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing in her ears like a drum. She could feel the weight of unseen eyes, a presence lurking just beyond the edge of the light. They entered a room at the end of the hallway. The air grew noticeably colder, raising goosebumps on their arms. The room was sparsely furnished, with only a few pieces of heavy antique furniture draped in dust covers. A single window, boarded up from the outside, allowed slivers of moonlight to pierce the gloom, casting long, dancing shadows across the room. As they stood there, a cold draught seemed to sweep through the room, stirring the dust covers and making the shadows dance. Lucy swore she heard a whisper, a faint, disembodied voice that seemed to come from the very walls themselves. She spun around, her heart racing, but there was nothing there.
Did you hear that?
I thought I heard something too.
It's just the wind.
Mike, however, was dismissive, but even he couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone.